Thank you, Rivka. It's very touching and very true. In all her illness, I did not hear Bonita ever complain and say that she wasn't well till the very, very end, where she said, "I'm not good." But that was it in all those years. Very special. I still cannot get my head around the fact that it's her Shloshim. I can't believe she's not physically here. Bonita was a very dear friend. And although her family moved to the east a number of years ago, we still stayed in close contact and shared very special moments together. I chose to speak about the journey of the soul tonight, albeit with limited time. I can only really touch the tip of the iceberg on such a profound and complex topic. Bonita was a woman of action. She had no interest or time in personal praise or in others extolling her virtues, which were many. Her interest was in getting things done and empowering others to do the same. What would Bonita want to have happen to mark her Shloshim? She would want women to gather together and learn, as she was passionate about Torah learning, and encouraging others to do mitzvot. In addition, when a person passes away, the biggest favor we can do for them is to learn, or give tzedakah, or do mitzvahs in their merit. Hence, why, in addition to sharing words of Torah, I have put tzedakah boxes in that box in the entrance for anyone who wishes to take them home tonight to use them as a zchus, a merit for an aliyah, an elevation for her neshama. So Bonita, because I know she's here, first she checked out the flowers, then she checked out the decor, and now she's listening. So Bonita, I know that this is what you would want me to do tonight, to teach, to learn, and to empower. Regarding the journey of the soul, as a Rebbetzin, I have been at many a bedside during the last moments of a person's life. Each person deals with their pending death differently. Some are afraid of the unknown. Others are very much at peace. Bonita was very much in tune with the journey of her soul. Whilst she was sad to leave her loved ones behind, she was a realist, and she realized that Hashem had his plans, which she nor anyone else could control. And she expressed this sentiment, as Rivka has just said. Upon reflecting on where she was going, she spoke with enthusiasm and said she was somewhat anticipating the next stage of her journey, where she would meet the Rebbe, see the great tzaddikim, and meet her family that have departed this world. She always looked at the bright side of every situation. It is this knowing, this peace that she felt, that she would wish for others as well. And peace comes with learning and a sense of inner knowing. It is a minhag, a custom to learn Mishnayos during the Shiva and the Shloshim. Mishnah has the same Hebrew letters as neshama, the soul, as the soul is elevated through the teaching of Mishnayos. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot states, "Against our will we are born, and against our will we die." Why we don't want to be born is understandable. The soul does not want to leave its pristine place in the heavenly sphere, where it is safe, secure, and unchallenged by the distractions of materialism and concealment that this physical world presents to us. The soul is afraid it may forget its origin and not fulfill its purpose, its mission on earth. Why we don't want to die is also understandable. We realize how much more there is to accomplish, how much we can still contribute to this world and our macrocosm, our family, our community. Perhaps there is a sense of urgency sometimes at the last minute to complete certain aspects of our life, of our mission. We also do not want our loved ones to leave our loved ones behind or burden them with the suffering of our loss. But in a way, and for some people predominantly so, There is a sense of fear of the unknown. Let's face it, how many people have come back to tell the story? We are afraid of the finality of death. What if there is really nothing after life? What if it's all over and God forbid, we end up in a box and that's it? Now, those who know me will attest to the fact that I am particularly expressive when it comes to the belief of the spiritual layer of this world. I feel that if one lives with an inner knowledge and belief of the soul within ourselves and within the world and within Torah itself, we are able to live with depth and a strong sense of purpose. Hence, this is why I am passionate about teaching and trying to live with the principles of Chassidus, the spiritual teaching of the Torah based on Kabbalah and taught to us by the various Rabbeim, starting from the Baal Shem Tov until the Rebbe himself. I always incorporate these spiritual teachings into my shiurim, as many of you know, as I feel we are so fortunate to have those treasures. My daughter sent me a WhatsApp the other day that I thought depicted the concerns of the skeptical, questioning, or frightened person with fabulous imagery. It reads, and many of you may have received it, so excuse me if you have, but I think it's really apt. In a mother's womb were two babies. One asked the other, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" The other replied, "Why, of course, there has to be something after delivery. Maybe we are here to prepare ourselves for what we will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There is no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" The second one said, "I don't know, but there will be more light than in here. Maybe we will walk with our legs and eat from our mouths. Maybe we will have other senses that we can't understand now." The first replied, "That's absurd. Walking is impossible. And eating with our mouths, ridiculous. The umbilical cord supplies nutrition and everything we need, but the umbilical cord is short. Life after delivery is to be logically excluded." The second insisted, "Well, I think there is something, and maybe it's different than it is here. Maybe we won't see the physical cord anymore." The first replied, "Nonsense. And moreover, if there is life, then why has no one ever come back from there?" Delivery is the end of life, and in the after delivery, there's nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere. "Well, I don't know," said the second, "but certainly we'll meet Mother, and she will take care of us." The first replied, "Mother? You actually believe in Mother? That's laughable. If Mother exists, then where is she now?" So the second said, "She is all around us. We are surrounded by her. We are of her. It is in her that we live. Without her, this world would not and could not exist." Said the first, "Well, I don't see her, so it's only logical that she doesn't exist." To which the second replied, "Sometimes when you are in silence and you focus and you really listen, you can perceive her presence and you can hear her loving voice calling down from above." We all have the potential to truly listen to the divine and cultivate our beliefs. But when we are unsure, we should reflect upon the fact that just because something is not tangible, visible, or even logical to our finite minds, it does not mean it doesn't exist. Whilst there are those great tzaddikim who have in fact come back in various forms to tell the story, be it in dreams or otherwise, and there are people who claim to be psychic or otherwise in tune, and they will testify to the validity of the afterlife, we nonetheless do not base our knowledge of the unseen on these experiences. We base our knowledge on being told unequivocally by our Creator that this is the case. There is only one certainty, one knowing that we have all inherited equally. This is inextricably connected with our souls and our very existence. This certainty is the Torah and its truth. The divine gift from Hashem that tells us clearly through mystical, halachic and other sources that we have come from another world, a spiritual world, that we have got a soul and the soul is eternal, that there is an afterlife, that Mashiach will one day come and those who have passed away will in fact come back to life. Albeit a fundamental principle of Jewish faith, it is still our prerogative whether we choose to believe in the spirit or in the afterlife. And you may find yourselves questioning the validity or the certainty of some of the concepts I will share with you. However, speaking from years of experience in encountering those who are grieving, I have found that those who do have a strong belief system are generally able to process their loss on some level and cope a lot better with their grief because they believe that the vicissitudes of life are not just random acts of fate, and death is not eternal, rather it is an integral part of an ongoing journey that we will all face at some stage, and it is part of a greater plan. When we confront death with a sense of knowing and purpose, this peace is very comforting, both for the person who is moving on and for their loved ones. In the famous words of Viktor Frankl, one who knows the why for his existence will be able to bear almost any how. And in Bonita's final days, she profoundly said, "This is not the end, it is just the beginning." She felt it, she believed it, and she knew it. I often use the analogy of a caterpillar as it merges into a chrysalis. It dies, in a sense. It ceases to exist as a caterpillar. It is the same caterpillar that re-emerges, and yet it is not the same. It is entirely different. It has an entirely different life. When we die, we re-emerge in an entirely different form that is not understandable to us in this life. We take the next step in our journey. Life on earth is only a part of the entirety of our journey. People often define themselves by what they do. Who are you? I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a teacher. I'm a mum. Who are we really? As human beings, we have the freedom to choose a course in life that will make a real difference. All these powers come from one place, the soul within us. The soul is the source of all life, all change, all inspiration, all love, and everything that makes us who we are. Some 200 years ago, in a little village in Eastern Europe, a small group of friends were walking each other home from the study hall when they heard a mournful voice calling from a nearby cabin, "Zusha, Zusha, where are you, Zusha?" As they peered into the window, they saw Reb Zusha, very famous tzaddik, pacing back and forth with a candle in hand, as if searching for something, calling out to himself in the dead of the night. Suspecting he had lost his mind, they let themselves in to calm him down, saying, "Zusha, what's the matter with you? You are right here. What are you looking for?" "Fools," he replied, "there will come a time that my days in this world will be over. You will come in and see me lying on the floor, and you will cry, 'Zusha's gone. Zusha, Zusha, where is Zusha?' You will see my body before you, intact from head to toe. Yet you will still call for me. The Zusha that you will be looking for then, I am looking for now." We are often on a search outside of ourselves. In truth, what we are often seeking to discover is the godly spark within, our true identity, our true selves, our neshama, our soul. We are taught that the soul progresses from the spiritual planes to the lowest of the worlds, this physical world, and it is made up of many layers and dimensions, which I don't have the time to go into tonight to discuss, but some of the ladies here have had the opportunity to discuss these concepts with me in greater detail. Whilst the rest of the world was created by God's speech, the soul was created so to speak, by the breath of God. As the soul stands at the brink of entering into the world, God empowers it with his essence as it embarks upon its critical journey, its divine mission. The soul works in tandem with the body to fulfill its mission for the duration of its life on earth. Every single soul is responsible for a particular portion of this physical universe in terms of the physical space it occupies, the things we own, the opportunities and the relationships that come our way, which never happen by chance. No one else, no other soul can accomplish our individual calling. The entire universe is depending upon each person's individual actions to make this world a different kind of place. It is our mandate, each one of us individually, to uplift and refine our particular portion on earth by infusing it with the energy of goodness and holiness, engaging with every possession, every experience, every place, every relationship in a meaningful and positive way. It is our mandate to exercise our free will by making appropriate choices in our lifetime and choosing right from wrong. It is our mandate to transform darkness into light and to reveal the light that is intrinsic in all perceived darkness, challenges, and spiritual void. The Torah guides us just how to do this. Life on earth is a time of learning and growth, a time of repair, sometimes also related to a past life or past lives that we have led. We are tested by the challenges and opportunities that come our way, and we are given specific talents to develop and utilize in this lifetime. Anything that we do to the detriment of our mission is not who we are and has an effect on our soul. All the mitzvahs that we do in this world have an eternal positive impact on our soul and on the world. Our experiences in this world are our opportunities to define ourselves in the highest spiritual dimensions in a manner that is simply impossible in the spiritual world or realms. In this world, and in this world only, through our actions, we write the scripts for eternity, our scripts for eternity, and create our own portions in the world to come. We are surrounded by the light and energy of our actions, good or otherwise. This is what we are left with. This is in fact all that we are left with at the end of our lives. And this is what accompanies us and encompasses us once we leave this world. The Mishnah teaches us that this world is like a foyer to the banquet hall, the world to come. We are told to prepare ourselves in the foyer so that we may enter the banquet hall with dignity and in a manner that will enable us to truly appreciate and benefit from the banquet. Notwithstanding the tremendous benefits the soul enjoys after having achieved its purpose on earth, the soul is nonetheless reluctant to descend to this alien world as an independent entity from its source, as it is aware of the challenges ahead. Some say this is why, from a spiritual perspective, a child cries at birth. Oh, and on this note, I wish myself mazel tov, as my son Peretz and Shterny had a little baby girl last night. So, talk about birth. So, granny. A story is told, Baruch Hashem, thank God. A story is told from 220 years ago of a woman in labour who was struggling to give birth to a baby. The doctors were concerned for the mother's life, and her husband ran to the Upter Rav for a blessing. The Upter Rav was a great, holy tzaddik. After some deep meditation, the tzaddik told his chassid, "Go back home and everything would be okay," and so it was. He later told his chassidim, his followers, that he had had a conversation with the soul. The soul was extremely reluctant to enter this world, as it could foresee that in this life he would be faced with tremendous challenges, and the neshama was afraid it would succumb to its temptations. The tzaddik promised the soul that it would in fact remain spiritually intact, and only then did the soul stop its rebellion and agree to be born without drama. The Talmud teaches us that before a soul enters into this world, there is a spiritual light shining above the head of the fetus, and it sees from one end of the world to the other. The unborn baby is shown the entire creation within the context of its divine purpose. It is shown all that God created and is taught the entire Torah from beginning to end. We do not retain this information once born, or it would eliminate our free choice, but it does remain imprinted on our subconscious. The soul verbally commits to its mission and makes an oath to fulfill it, empowers us and helps us focus and overcome temptations. This empowerment, giving us strength for our challenges, recurs in a small way each night. When we go to sleep at night, an aspect of the soul is temporarily absent from the full life of the body and is more connected with the divine source than when we are asleep. Hence we say Moda Ani when we wake up, and hence some people have spiritual experiences while they are sleeping at night, as they are potentially more connected to the divine. So birth is a fusion of body and soul, and various milestones in life mark new stages of this synergy. The birth, the bris, the naming, and generally we say that at the time of the bar or bat mitzvah, the soul, as it exists within this world, completes its entry into the body and synthesizes with it. At some stage, we finish our journey on this planet. Now, nobody can escape death. It's one of those things they say, death and taxes. Can't get out of it. Since the sin of Adam and Chava, there is no such thing as eternal life on this planet, not at least until after Mashiach comes. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, said that he could choose to die by going up to heaven with the angels, his body and soul together. But he chose to die in a natural manner and be buried in the ground, as it is God's plan for the body to go back to the dust from which it was formed. The body was originally formed from dust and must return to dust. Where does the soul go? What happens to the soul? Now, like I said, it's very complex, and I'll give you just the tip. For most people, it's hard for the soul to separate from the body that has become its home and comfort zone for hopefully many years. Transitions in general are difficult. This transition is not an easy one, as we become attached to our bodies, and in our minds, the ultimate transition is death. The more prepared we are, the smoother the transition is. The Zohar teaches us that a person does not die until they see the light of the Shekhinah, godliness. And this yearning we have towards this light, which is probably somewhat the light that people who come out of out-of-body experiences or come back to life speak about when they recall these experiences. This light entices his or her soul to leave this world. At that time, the person is given permission to see his relatives and friends in the form that they were in this world. And if he or she merits, they are smiling upon him and accompany him or her. For those who have served God faithfully, those who have lived a life of integrity and feel they have lived their life to its fullest, there is a sense of closure and completion. When the mission of the soul is over, it does not revert back to a state of non-being, as I said before. It ascends to the more sublime spiritual worlds, where a soul can feel at home. This return to a spiritual existence is called Gunaydin, or paradise. Just as the soul impacts the world impacts the soul. And to varying degrees, depending upon the individual, the neshama becomes attached to its earthly surroundings. To become unified with our source in Gunaydin, we need to first detach from our connection to the physical world. The intensity of this process and the stages of detachment is dependent upon the level of attachment that we have formed to materialism in our lifetime. This process is different for a tzaddik, and a tzaddik progresses differently after death. In particular, a tzaddik, holy, great person, who engaged with the world and was not just involved in pursuing his own individual destiny, but engaged with duty towards humankind and a broad mission. During his lifetime, a tzaddik's soul is intensely focused on the physical and spiritual well-being of those who are close to him. After death, his mission on behalf of others does not cease to be relevant. And whilst the tzaddik and the ordinary person may appear to be dealing with identical objects and earthly things during their life, they are not. The physical world of a tzaddik is qualitatively different from ours. All physical is used for higher purposes, and his connection to the physical is always a spiritual mission. Therefore, it continues after his death, and he does not need to detach from the physical world, nor does his body necessitate decay. This can explain why there are documented cases of tzaddikim whose bodies were discovered after hundreds of years still intact in their graves. It also explains why tzaddikim long after their death are said to be equally present in this world as they are in the next. However, tonight I'm focusing on most of us who are not tzaddikim. Maybe some are. Very possible. As long as the soul is in a body, it finds expression through the body. But once the soul has totally left the body, it no longer desires a form of physical expression. However, it does not immediately lose its connection to its old home. In life, the body and soul are partners. So too in death, because the soul feels a connection to the body after death. And after death, the body retains its status of being a garment for the soul, retaining residual holiness from the soul. For this reason, we treat the body with utmost dignity. We cannot desecrate the body even after death, and we have no right to cremate the body, as not only must we return the body to Hashem as it was given to us, if we hurt or destroy the body, the soul suffers tremendously. Before the burial, the soul is somewhat displaced and has no expression with the physical, but it hasn't yet been integrated into the spiritual. Hence, we bury the body as soon as possible, and we do not preserve bodies. There are various stages of the departure of the soul as the body gradually decomposes and the soul detaches. This generally corresponds to the stages of mourning. During the Shiva period, the soul hovers around the home and tends to go from the grave to the home, predominantly hanging out in the home. Over the first year, the soul gradually departs from its attachment to this world, which is why we try not to, and it is the custom, not to visit the graveside during the first year, other than the Shiva, the Shloshim, and the tombstone, as the soul is busy going through its journey, and any connection to this world or its loved ones can hold it back from its smooth ascent and transition into the next world. During the first 12 months, the neshama ascends and descends. After the first 12 months, the soul rises and transcends this world and finds its home in a spiritual level in Gunaydin. Gunaydin, or heaven, is not a physical space. It is a deeper dimension of existence. A neshama, a soul, is always connected to the souls of its loved ones, and it is present for simchas and is able to give strength and even guidance and pray for the souls it has a connection with. I remember once after my grandmother, Alea Shalom, she passed away, and I've shared this story with a few people. It was a number of years after she had passed away, and one night I had a dream, and my grandmother was looking very, very, very worried, and I just got this strong sense that she was very concerned about my grandfather. So I phoned my mother up and I said, I had this dream about Baba last night and I'm worried something with Zayda, I don't know. So she said, that's really unusual because I had the same dream. And then she phoned up one of her brothers, and her brother said, I had the same dream too, the three of us in one night. So he went to my grandfather the next day and he said, I actually phoned my grandfather. I said, are you doing anything that would make Bubba annoyed? She's not happy. He says, no, I'm being good. So basically, my uncle went over to the house and spoke to my grandfather. He said, you know what, we're concerned. Took him off to the doctor and he had a quadruple bypass immediately, because had he not have gone to the doctor, they would not have discovered this. And clearly my grandmother was looking out for him and sending a message to look after him and make sure he's okay. So they do look out for us, and they care and they connect with us when they need to. When one visits the graveside of someone, one connects to the deceased, as the resting place of the body is always connected to the soul until the soul once again reunites with the body at the time of the resurrection. And I'll tell you a little story here of my sister. My grandfather, this is the other grandfather, Dad's father, Oliver Sholem. My sister was very close to them. She lives overseas in Washington, D.C. He was a rabbi in Baltimore. And he spent his last few years in Sydney with us, thank God. My father was an only child where there were only grandchildren. And when he passed away, my sister was quite devastated because she'd had a baby in between, and my grandfather was a Kohen, and she made sure that he blessed all of her children with the blessing of the Kohanim. And when she came to Sydney to visit him, he's buried in Rookwood, she came with my brother, and she said her little 20 minutes of, she stood there and she davened and she said to Tehillim, and then at the end she said, Zayda, I'm so sad because I had another baby, and she was holding the baby, and she said, this baby never ever had Birchas Kohanim from you. He never had the blessing of the Kohanim from you. I feel like he missed out, and I'm so upset I wasn't here. And she said, you know what I'm going to do, Zayda? I'm going to say the bracha b'kohanim, v'rechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, and I'm going to think in my head that you're actually giving me this blessing. Now my brother was standing on the side. He couldn't hear a thing because he's a Kohen. I come from a family of Kohanim. He's a Kohen, and he was standing on the side because Kohanim can't stand there so close. And as they were leaving to go towards the car, he said to her, you know, Nechama, the strangest thing just happened to me. He said, just as you were finishing at the grave, I got this strong feeling that Zayda's trying to tell me something. I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe he's telling me to tuck my tzitzis in, because my grandfather was very careful about halacha, and you're not allowed to have your tzitzis out at New York Cemetery because it makes the deceased feel bad that they can't keep mitzvahs. So you have to put the tzitzis in when you go to a funeral or grave. And then he saw my tzitzis were in. What does he want? And then he said, all of a sudden I got this strong message, say Birchas Kohanim. And he said, Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. And do you know, he said at the exact same time as my sister. My grandfather said the Birchas Kohanim through my brother. So yep, I believe. Once it leaves this world, the soul now has a completely different view and has to measure itself against different criteria. It is shown the entirety of all its actions in this world, and when disembodied, the soul views life as a whole. Many things that we had considered extremely important whilst alive turns out to be devoid of meaning or unessential. This is part of the process of release, of disassociating the two partners, body and soul, and of coming into a different existence. This is part of the spiritual therapy that the soul experiences before entering into Gunaydin, otherwise known as Gehenna. This preparation time depends largely on the person's life. During the first year, when we say the Kaddish, which is said in a minyan for the deceased, this protects the neshama from this process, the deep pain that accompanies a soul when it regrets certain actions from life on earth. We create our own heaven, and so too we are the creators of the opposite. One needs to experience this preparatory stage of disconnecting, understanding and cleansing before entering into Gunaydin. Kaddish is a very important aspect to the ascent of the soul, and the more regularly Kaddish is said, the more it benefits the neshama. The righteous will find a home and peace in Gunaydin relatively quickly, if not straight away, after their passing. There is little to work through and few regrets, if any, regarding their life on earth that requires time to process. and they do not have a strong attachment to the physicality of this world, so the separation is relatively easy and smooth. If the soul has not completed part of its mission, there also may be a need for reincarnation. This means that this soul would then give birth to another soul that has somewhat of an attachment and connection to the original soul. The process of reincarnation can span many generations and lifetimes until every layer and aspect of the original soul is refined, every mitzvah completed, and every part of Torah studied by the original soul or its offshoots. All souls that are reincarnated from each other are invested in each other and are impacted by the successes and failures of one another. When Mashiach comes, each soul comes back with its own memories, stories, and experiences. Each soul retains its own original identity, as it does in Gunaydin. We are all reincarnated souls, but that's a topic for another time. All neshamas, regardless of their actions, will definitely find eternal rest in Gunaydin after 12 months. It is said that only a truly wicked person will take 12 months to process their actions before entering Gunaydin, which is why we stop saying Kaddish after 11 months, as we do not want to imagine that our loved one needs more time to transition, as for sure they lived a life of integrity and goodness and have long moved on to find eternal rest in paradise. Gunaydin is the most blissful experience one can encounter and contains the wholeness of everything. In the words of the Rambam, Gunaydin is where the soul experiences its reward. As a blind man cannot comprehend colour and a deaf man cannot process sound, our bodies or minds cannot begin to comprehend the delight of the soul in Gunaydin in heaven. The pleasure derived from Gunaydin is not split into parts, and no parable can explain this delight, says the Rambam. After the first year, every year on the yahrzeit, when Kaddish is said for the neshama, it ascends to an even higher level in Gunaydin. The soul can keep ascending for eternity. After the first year, the official mourning has ended. Incessant mourning for the departed person pains the neshama and affects its eternal rest. There's a true story told of a particular man, I'm not mentioning his name, who died young in his early 30s and left a young wife with 5 children. The couple had an amazing relationship, and she did not stop crying for a very long time after the year of mourning. One night she had a dream of her husband, who asked her, begged her, to please stop crying, as it gives him no rest. When a neshama leaves this world, our happiness is their happiness, and our sadness is their sadness. My in-laws lived in the same block of units as Rabbi Ushpal. Rabbi Ushpal lost his Rebbetzin in 1972, and the Rebbe encouraged him to remarry. "But Rebbe, I want my wife to be happy," he replied. Shame. Still worried, he didn't want to make her upset. The Rebbe said to him, "If you are happy, she will be happy." However, for those of us who are left behind, we are left with a feeling of emptiness, sadness, and a void that cannot be replaced. There is a deep need to connect to the person we have lost in a tangible way. The good news is that there is a way we can tangibly connect to our loved ones who have moved on. Every time we do a mitzvah in their honor, with their neshama in mind, every time we learn Torah in their merit, or give tzedakah, or follow in their footsteps by emulating the mitzvahs they did or taught us, we are connecting to their soul and helping them achieve even more holiness, light, and peace in the next world, and they are connecting with us. We are doing for them what they can no longer do for themselves. The soul can no longer perform mitzvahs in this world, and when we do so, the neshama benefits enormously. It is for this reason we are here tonight, learning in the memory of Bonita. It is not a memory. It is a living legacy. We are connecting with her. She's more alive in this room. And it is for this reason we are going to be re-establishing a program that Bonita, myself, and other women worked on together for many years, the Rosh Chodesh Women's Forum, where once a month, women will unite in a spirit of learning, inspiration, growth, connection, and enjoyment. When we learn Torah concepts, not only will we benefit, but this will directly benefit her neshama in the next world. And what bigger mitzvah could one do? I sincerely hope she will have much nachas from what we will all be doing. At this point, you'll see that there's a little flyer on your chair. It's got the next month's function and the save the date for the two after that. And if you put down all your details, I'm going to be making fridge magnets. These have little magnets at the back, but I'm going to be making fridge magnets that I'd like to mail out to everybody that will have the details for the next 12 months. So I'm personally inviting everybody to attend. When we light the Shabbos candles and think of mothers or grandmothers who did the same, we carry on their legacy. When we go to the mikveh or say a prayer or perform acts of kindness, the neshama of our dear parent or spouse or grandparent looks down and has incredible joy and nachas. This accomplishes the same as Kaddish, if not more, for the neshama. I just want to quickly read this to you before I finish. This is actually from the Kitzur. This is from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. Very interesting. It says as follows: even though the saying of the Kaddish and prayers are helpful to the souls of the parents, yet they are not the main thing. The most important thing is that the children walk in the path of righteousness, because with that they gain heavenly favor for their parents. Thus it is written in the Holy Zohar, a son honors his father. This statement is similar to the divine command, honor your father and mother, which teaches that a son must provide his parents with food and drink. All this he must do while they are alive, but after their death you might think he is exempt. This is not so. Even after their death, it is our duty to honor them even more, for it is written, honor your father. And if the son walks in the path of evil, he surely shows contempt for his father and disgraces him. But if the son walks in the path of righteousness and acts properly, he certainly honors his father thereby. He honors him in this world, in the eyes of man, and confers glory on him in the other world, in the presence of the Holy One, blessed be he. And the Holy One, blessed be he, has mercy on him and seats him on his throne of honor. End of the Zohar text. A person should therefore instruct his children to observe one certain mitzvah with particular care. If they fulfill this mitzvah, it counts far more even than the Kaddish. This is also a good course to follow for a person who has no sons and only daughters. She must take on a mitzvah, a specific mitzvah, for the merit of the neshama. So, Jews have built shuls, written Torahs, donated Sidurim, Chumoshim, sponsored initiations, charitable projects, and acts of kindness in the memory of loved ones. This creates an eternal living legacy for those whom we have lost, and they are eternally grateful to us for doing so. Let's think about someone we have lost and ask ourselves, what mitzvah can we do specifically in their honor, in their merit, that will give their neshama an aliyah, an elevation? In doing so, we will be doing an incredible mitzvah by keeping their soul alive, not only in the next world, but also in this world. I would like to conclude with one of my favorite stories from the Talmud that I quoted when I spoke at the Rebbe's 20th yahrzeit. A great sage, Rabbi Nachman, took leave of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak blessed the former with this parable. A weary traveller stops to rest near a tree. He drinks clear water from the stream nearby, eats from the fruits of the tree, and rests in the shade. After the traveller feels refreshed, he prepares to resume his journey. He turns to the tree and says, Ilan, Ilan, dear tree, with what can I bless you? Should I wish you to be full of sweet fruits? You have that already. Should I wish you to have a clear stream of water flowing nearby? You have that too. Should I wish you to be a source of shade? You have that as well. What I shall wish for you is that all that comes forth from you will be blessed to be like you. On this night of Bonita's Shloshim, I bless all her children, that they should emulate the special qualities of their mum and continue to grow constantly in their Yiddishkeit and in their relationship with Hashem, as Bonita did. May you children learn from her wisdom, her drive, her kindness, her love for Torah, and bring children into the world who follow in the path of their ancestors with holy neshamas. I bless all those people who have had the privilege to know her, and everyone here this evening with the same blessing. May all of our mitzvahs in her merit give her neshama and aliyah, and may we all be reunited with her and all of our loved ones whom we miss so dearly very, very soon, with the imminent and certain arrival of Mashiach.